I needed to make some changes to my suspension, and I thought the more budget-friendly way would be to change the spring on the shock. Now, if you've been intimidated to pull your shock because you don't want to have to disassemble everything, I will let you know you can drop this out of the swing arm, and I will show you how, and then I'll let you know how this performs with just a heavier spring. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you saw the video I did probably about 2 months ago, you would have seen me talking about the suspension modifications I wanted to do to this bike. The rear spring is undersprung for me. I weigh 210 pounds on a good day before riding gear. And I had the preload cranked all the way up in order to get the proper sag. And then when I put luggage on, it was sagging even more. And I also knew that there was an issue with the forks, so I got the forks revalved and new stiffer springs put in there, more suitable for my weight. Now, I happened to just kind of glance through some of other videos that were done on changing shock springs, and what I saw was a complete disassembly of the whole upper end of the bike, pulling the gas tank to get the battery compartment pulled out, and I need to say that is not necessary. The total amount of time, if I wasn't filming, to pull the shock, change the spring, and put it back in is about an hour. So what you can do, and I'll go through the steps, is you just drop the linkage out of the bottom. It takes a little bit of wiggling and massaging to get this to slide out, but it comes out and it makes it really easy. So if you've been intimidated to tackle replacing your shock or pulling it out to put a new spring in, I can tell you it's really easy. And even if you don't change the spring, it's easy to get the shock out, take it into a shop. I've had shops change springs before. It was like 50, 60 bucks. Not a big deal. Now, if you're looking for this particular spring, this is the Ibec spring that I got off of AF1 Racing. It's, I'll put what the weight is. They have about 5 different spring rates, so you can choose the spring rate that you want for your weight. I've also learned that this is basically the same spring that is used on the Yamaha Tenere 700. So you could go to Rally Raid and get one of their springs and put on here. But frankly, my bike's red. Red spring is pretty dang cool. So I'm happy with that. So anyway, I will go through getting the shock pulled, getting the spring changed. As you can see, I've already done that. And let's get this reassembled. It's snowing here, so it's probably going to take maybe a week or so before I actually get out and do some testing on it, but we'll have that as well. It is time to get the shock pulled out so that I can get the spring changed on it. There's quite a bit of room in the swing arm, so I'm gonna disconnect the linkage at the bottom and see if I can't drop it out of the bottom and maybe slide it out. It may not work because of the preload adjustment, but I'm gonna try it anyway just to see what happens, because I've gotta disconnect the bottom linkage anyway in order to get the shock, even if it goes out the top. So if this could save me complete disassembly, it's worth it to me doing this. So that's what I'm gonna try right now. I've taken my motorcycle stand. I have a 2x4 underneath it where the lugs come down for the center stand. That's what's lifting it. And then I've got some straps here to stabilize the bike so that it's not gonna fall over. Back wheel is just barely off, so I have a little bit of play in it. The last thing I wanted to mention is I had to remove my skid plate because the skid plate I have, the Tuareg skid plate, has a linkage guard on it. If your skid plate doesn't go back far enough to have that linkage guard, you might be able to just lift from your skid plate and be able to drop it out. So let's see what happens. I've removed the 15mm bolts, or the size of the wrench you need is 15mm for these, 13 on the back side. So I have these 2 removed, and I can wiggle the tire a little bit to get these pulled out, and shouldn't be a problem. Dropping this link out, and then I'll have to remove the shock bolt from this link here. Okay, if you're wanting to remove your shock from your bike, you don't have to do a full disassembly. Drop the linkage off of the bottom, just completely remove the linkage, and then once you pull the bolts, you have to massage it a little bit and turn it and twist it out. But I got the shock out in less than 30 minutes, and I was including some filming. So now I just need to get this really cool red spring put on here and get this mounted back up. So I think I could do this all in an hour, and it doesn't require the full disassembly. So let's get to that. I have my own 5,000 pound, or sorry, 12 ton press here. So I was able to get it rigged in here. There's not a lot of purchase on the bottom of the spring, but I was able to get my clamp in here just to get enough on there. And it doesn't take much to start getting some separation. So I'll be able to drop that off and then install the new spring. All right, since I've got the linkage out, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of grease in the needle bearings, but I'm not gonna pull this collar all the way out. I'm gonna pull it about halfway, put some grease on one side, and then push it in the other way, just to add a little bit in there. These are actually greased pretty well, but since I have it apart now, I'm gonna go ahead and do that because it's apart, and I don't anticipate needing to take this apart again, hopefully for a very, very long time. Actually, that took quite a bit of grease. So I'm gonna keep greasing this to get this linkage operating well. So I've been out getting some initial rides in on the new suspension, the shock with the new spring, and of course the Evo Industries resprung revalve front forks, which I'll talk about later. Now, the one thing I will say is the front forks feel amazing, which unfortunately has caused some issues for the rear. So I can sum up my experience on the rear shock in one word: disappointing. The sag is much, much better now with this heavier spring, but I was warned that the stock shock, the rebound circuit on it is going to be insufficient to handle the new spring rate of the heavier spring, and that is exactly what my experience has been. I had the rebound turned all the way in, so it closed off as much as possible, and I'm still getting rear end kick out of it if I hit square edge stuff. See it kicked up. Yeah, that's terrible. So not ideal. It means I have to slow myself down, so that's not happening. Out here testing, I'm going a little bit faster than I would normally ride if I've got full luggage and I'm traveling. But yeah, I don't think long term that this is going to be the right solution. I only replaced the spring as for a budget upgrade instead of going full on shock. And for those of you out there that are on a tight budget, I wanted to let you know what that spring will do for you. I'm at, if I remember right, 90 kilogram spring, and the shock is struggling. I think if you're down to 80, 85, the shock will be okay. If you're at 95, you're really not going to be happy with this shock. Now, I could potentially send it in and get the shock revalved. The only problem with that is that the adjustments on the rebound and compression for this shock are pretty small. And I really like shocks that have high and low speed compression adjustment, because I can really dial those in to the way I ride, and it's a lot more adjustment. It's a better ride. So eventually, it's going to take some time, but I will replace this shock with the probably the Tractive shock. I think that is the best one on the market. It's expensive, and that's why I say it's going to take me a little bit of time. So so far, you know, it's just out testing and seeing how it's responding. I was hoping for a little bit better, but if you don't ride very hard and you just need to get your sag set better because you're a heavier person like I am, then I think you can do that. You're just not going to be able to ride with a lot of pace because of the way that kicks up. So if you hit a square edge, that rear end, it's going to jump. The other thing that does is it prevents me from wanting to take any lips, you know, the water washouts where they have those, I don't know what you want to call them, the little lips on those. I have a tendency to jump those a lot and wheelie off of them. I'm not going to do that right now because the shock is going to kick on me. I did ride, I found a little whoop section in a forest road here, and I rode through that and it was fine. It felt okay. It didn't feel like it was kicking, but those are smaller sections and I'm not going nearly as fast. So it is functional, just not optimal.
So if you are looking to upgrade your shock or your rear suspension, and a spring is something you're thinking about, then hopefully you found this helpful. If you have upgraded your rear shock to another brand, let me know what that is in the comments below. I've seen some of you have done the Öhlins rear shock. I've talked to a few people, and it seems like getting those is a little bit challenging, and replacement parts is a little bit challenging. So not sure I'd go that direction. Anyway, that's been my experience. If you have changed just the spring, let me know how your shock has performed. And again, if you've changed the shock, let me know which one you changed to and how the bike has performed for you. Anyway, remember, you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So get out and do that ride that you've been thinking about. Thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.